right here. I got off like 131 copies of Iron Sights today. That's a personal one-day record, and that's like, boxing them, putting the postage on, taking them there. That's the most I've done in one day of work. I'm going to try to do about 150 tomorrow. But sidebar, I got a quick sidebar for pet owners. Luna stinks. She stinks all the time. She stinks after a bath. She stinks after you put the fur, like the dry shampoo on her, the dog dry shampoo. I went to go visit my buddy. His dog's twice as big, has long hair, and looked like it came out of a freaking shampoo commercial. I don't understand. Like, she eats good food. I get her like good quality meat. She stinks all the time. I don't get it. Anyway, this is Batman Damned, and this one's had me thinking, because I actually think that this is going to be a new phase. Like, I got a buddy, he's a collector, like he's a real collector. He collects original art, he collects old, comics, new comics, fanzines, and so I'm going to be sharing a lot of these fanzines I got from, I think most of them are from the 80s. And I remember this time very fondly, even though I actually got into comics in the late 80s. I would read fanzines from earlier. And what we had from about 1985 to about 1995 was a brief period in the, let's say, 80 years of comic books. A brief 10-year period where comic books actually respected themselves as a medium, as a culture, and it was very, very exciting. When I started, comics started, and they were kind of for everyone, even like GIs and deployed in World War I or II would read it. But then when they came back, it had a big stink on it. It was not just for kids only, but it was specifically for dumb kids. 60s was a Batman TV show that kind of like in Marvel, there was like a camp element where college kids could say they liked Marvel. It was kind of cool. Continued through the 70s. Then it kind of settled back into like a kid thing, but it wasn't like for loser kids. It was for just nerds and regular kids. And then something amazing happened in the 80s. We had basically the British invasion. The British invasion was a recruiter from DC. I forget her name. It was a woman. And she went over and she did visits to UK, and she found all those, people you like, the Alan Moores, and then the Alan Moores, he led to the Grant Morrisons and the Neil Gaimans, and later to the Garth Ennises. And then, of course, in America, you had Frank Miller, you had Howard Schenken. I got a bunch of interviews with them. I'll do multiple videos because I had a little epiphany, and that's not the black stripper at the strip club near the airport. I just realized something. This is phase 2. Year 1 was about, being a little provocateur, being a little, Heath Ledger Joker in the industry. Pissing people off, calling people out, making things, blowing up things. But this is the next phase. This is, comics is something that can be respected. It just has to behave in a way to be respected. So that we bring this to the DC Black Label. DC Black Label is the new, I don't know if they call it adults only, what do they call it? Mature readers. Basically Vertigo. But Vertigo, right now, they relaunched Vertigo, and it's basically Black Mask, which is Antifa Comics. But it's really Vertigo. These are supposed to be, higher quality. I don't even know what you call this print size. It's album. Oh, yeah, duh. It's a European album size, basically. So it's an album. Albums typically, if you ever lived in Europe, or if you're snooty and you go over there just to have a cheese plate and fly back to America, is Europe is all about the album culture. An album is, sometimes it's like that, usually a hardcover. 48, 60 pages, and it's like one dude, and it's his whole year. He puts it out, that's his, and it's kind of funny because it's artistic, and that it's very much auteur theory. Auteur theory is like Martin Scorsese is everything for this movie, even though 300 people worked on it. But sometimes it's like literally that guy does everything, including the writing. But so it's artsy Europe, but it's also like stone cold capitalism. You sell, or your company, Dargo or Humanoids or all those guys, they just don't print your stuff again. So you got to bring it. That's why there's a lot of boobies. There's a lot of boobies. There's a lot of guns. There's cool stuff. It's very visually exciting. They don't get SJ'd over there. They're just like, the problem here is your nipples are not pink enough. Get them more pink, and then maybe show her ass with a squeeze, like a juice, like a, how you say it? Sweat on the ass.
I go to Brussels regularly. That's actually a thing.
There's some really good European albums. I always get a little nervous, just like with this one. When you make a comic too nice, like it's almost like I feel like I need to like bathe myself in some sort of expensive mountain water. You don't just flip through a book like this. You want to wash your hands and dry them, but this was good. This is quite good, and with the let's just say I was watching a video where a normie was talking about the comic book industry, and he was constantly disgusted at the behaviors and attitudes of pros. And this goes just the same for what we have left of a press. I'm going to show you stuff, these zines from the 80s and 90s, and you're going to be shocked that comics was seen with any kind of respect by its own members and society. So this book, which is not my style, but really got me into it, was destroyed. It was destroyed. It's basically ruined. It was ruined by a bunch of Rich Johnson types because there's a nude scene and you can see Batman nude. They freaked out like SJWs always do. It's always like lowest common denominator, moral, and it's like being snarky and it's just stupid, just immature. I was talking to a guy who was, examining aspects of the modern comic industry, and he kept like not understanding. I go, you have a fundamental mystery. You're trying to understand the behaviors as behaviors of adults, and this is strange behavior for adults. You have to understand. You have to reframe it in the minds of children. And I'm talking to first and second graders. When you start looking at the behavior of comic pros and the comic press, and you just imagine they're all 8 or 9, 7, then it makes more sense. So Batman Damned is this is out of continuity. It's its own thing. I mean, basically just imagine it as a movie. The movies, obviously, they do whatever they want with the Batman mythos. So this is about a Batman who has been very badly injured. The Joker is apparently dead, but maybe not. And what we get is a very, very engrossing story. You can see the art is fantastic. It is Lee Bermejo. Lee Bermejo started kind of when Wildstorm was kind of on its downward slope. He came in, and they kind of didn't know what to do with them. He did Batman Deathblow. He did this other Batman. It was set at Christmas time. I forget what it's called. There's a lot of covers. He did the for before Watchmen. I would say he's never quite hit 100% on. I'm pretty sure he wrote that one where it's Batman at Christmas time. That one was actually pretty good. But he definitely is the person you want for a prestige book. They're covering things. They're getting into him being a child, stuff with his father and mother, and then putting in this kind of cool witch girl. I don't even know what's going on there. Anyway, it was really, really exciting. I was getting into it. Brian Azzarello he's not my guy. I don't really like his stuff. I've said before, he wants to be portrayed as a Mickey Spillane type or some sort of, deep artist, and he just seems like some NPR dude who writes letters to the editor and shows up to city council meetings. Like, I don't get that, grit. I get simulated grit. But he is a good writer. And in this destroyed shambles of a comic book industry that we have right now, it's kind of stark. It literally is this thing where you have to kind of adjust to it in stages. I don't know, a hot shower or something, hotter than you usually do. First you stick your foot in, and you slowly get, hand, it's okay, I'm getting used to it. So I went in stages. At first it was just like, oh, this is good. And it's like, oh, he's trying. It's like, oh, this is made for adults. This is made for intelligent people and mature people. Or, also, for, I would say, mature teens. And you would never know it. Because the public face of it has been ruined. I'm told this is worth something like $60 because of the nudity, which is completely appropriate for the story. It was to show vulnerability. It was actually a plot point. He suspected there was something wrong and off with him, so he took his clothes off so the computer in the Batcave can analyze him, because he's like, things are not matching up. I need a deep analysis. Although I was kind of impressed. They say he weighs like they did his weight and it was like 270 pounds. This witch girl is like so cool. I don't know if she's I forget the woman from Suicide Squad, but they got John Constantine in here. They got Deadman, Boston Brand, and they're gonna have Harley Quinn next one. So, but unfortunately we've been taken over. It's not just the crazy people. We are now kowtowing to people who don't read.
No.
The BuzzFeed
Ni tan mal.
the Swan.com, the hit piece and the hit tweet and the fake offended and the goofball, nothing serious. This is a good book. It's actually legitimate.